Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2016 movie titled Criminal. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. The film begins in London, where CIA agent Bill Pope is seen retrieving a duffel bag from a store. He makes a phone call to his wife, Jilly, who anxiously inquires about his return home. However, Bill soon becomes aware that he is being followed. In a swift maneuver, he boards and disembarks from a public bus, successfully evading his pursuers before commandeering a motorcycle. Meanwhile, at the CIA's London station, Quaker Wells, the head of operations, rushes to the surveillance room after his agents lose track of Bill. They manage to reacquire him on the cameras, but he is now without the duffel bag. As Bill navigates through the city, he spots another tail and exits a train station, slipping into a cab. Unbeknownst to him, the individuals tracking him relay the cab number to their leader, Xavier Heimdall, a self-proclaimed anarchist who begins to hunt down the vehicle. In a desperate bid for safety, Bill uses the driver's cell phone to contact the CIA, who provide him with an extraction location at a dock. However, Xavier hacks into the driver's GPS, altering the route just as Bill realizes he is being led into danger. Xavier's men soon catch up to them, killing the cab driver and shooting out the tires. Bill manages to escape the vehicle and returns fire but quickly finds himself cornered and out of ammunition as Xavier's men close in. Meanwhile, a CIA operations team arrives at the docks but finds no sign of Bill. Tragically, he is captured and brought face to face with Xavier, who begins torturing him with an electric prong, demanding to know the whereabouts of a figure known as the Dutchman. Despite the agony, Bill remains silent, leading Xavier to escalate his torture by forcing the prong into Bill's mouth. By the time the CIA locates him, it is too late. Go! Bill succumbs to his injuries despite their frantic efforts to save him. In the aftermath, Dr. Micah Franks is approached by a CIA agent regarding his groundbreaking research on transplanting memories from deceased subjects into living ones. They urgently need him on a plane and arrange for all his equipment to be transported. The only thing left is to find a suitable subject for his experiment, and Dr. Franks already has someone in mind. At a U.S. penitentiary in West Virginia, CIA agents learn about Jericho Stewart, a criminally insane inmate whose frontal lobe damage prevents him from processing emotions or distinguishing right from wrong. The warden escorts the agents to Jericho's cell, where he is chained by his neck to the ceiling. When they inform him it's time to go, he stubbornly refuses until he has had his meal, causing a delay before he is ultimately tranquilized. They transport Jericho via helicopter to Dover Air Base, where they meet Dr. Franks before boarding a military aircraft. On board, Jericho is strapped to a bed and sedated upon learning he will undergo surgery. During the flight, Franks inquires about Jericho's childhood injury. Jericho recounts how his father threw him through a car window upon discovering that he was not his biological son. Franks reassures him that he will take care of him. Meanwhile, a televised interview featuring Piers Morgan reveals Xavier as the CEO of Stone Harp Industries, who has been charged with treason by the Spanish government. Despite this, Xavier defiantly declares that his actions against the Spanish government are justified and calls for a global revolution to dismantle what he perceives as corrupt criminal organizations masquerading as governments. At this moment, the CIA identifies Elsa Muller, a former German Special Forces operative, as one of Xavier's associates. As Jericho's plane lands in London, he is transported to a covert CIA facility where Wells and his team are keeping Bill Pope's body alive. They have successfully mapped Bill's neural patterns and plan to replicate them within Jericho's mind. Jericho is soon escorted into the sterile confines of the surgery room, where the procedure begins with a drill piercing his skull. Fiber optic cables are meticulously inserted to deliver electrical charges directly to his brain.
Testing theta.
However, as the operation progresses, complications arise, and Jericho's vital signs begin to falter. Dr. Franks urges a pause in the procedure, fearing for Jericho's life, but Wells coldly insists they continue, indifferent to Jericho's fate. Miraculously, Jericho starts to stabilize despite the dire circumstances. After the operation, he awakens in a haze of confusion, restrained to a bed. Franks, concerned for his recovery, wants to give him time to adjust, but Wells is relentless, demanding immediate answers. He bombards Jericho with questions about his identity and the whereabouts of a notorious hacker known as Jan Strook, or the Dutchman, who had developed a wormhole program capable of bypassing all security protocols. The CIA had marked the Dutchman for elimination, but Pope believed in collaboration and had hidden him in a safe house before his untimely death. Wells, frustrated and impatient, pressures Jericho to tap into Pope's memories and reveal the Dutchman's location. Though Jericho experiences fleeting flashes of memory involving the Dutchman, he ultimately tells Wells that he recalls nothing substantial. Wells, filled with rage and disappointment, berates Franks, declaring his life's work a failure and ordering his men to dispose of Jericho. He retreats to his control room, where he replays a video message from the Dutchman, who demands asylum and $10 million in exchange for the wormhole program. As agents scramble to track him down, we see the Dutchman leaving his safe house, growing weary of waiting. He uses a laundromat's phone to reach out to Jill, Pope's wife, only to learn of her husband's death. Meanwhile, Jericho is being escorted by agents when Franks pauses for a moment to offer him a pill for his headaches, warning him to take care of himself with a grave expression. As Jericho is transported by two agents, he notices one fidgeting with a device, arousing his suspicion. Seizing an opportunity, he manages to loosen a piece of trim from the passenger door and uses it to impale the driver in the neck. Causing the car to careen out of control and crash head-on into an oncoming vehicle. The second agent is killed instantly, but Jericho manages to recover and free himself from his restraints. He pulls the innocent driver from the wreckage and places him in the back of the CIA van before igniting the car in flames to buy himself precious time. Making his way back into town, he enters a burger joint, snatching a meal and drink from a customer while ignoring their protests. Outside, he confronts a group of men, demanding their van. When they attempt to chase him off, Jericho retaliates with brutal efficiency, overpowering them before commandeering their vehicle. As he drives away, he bops along to music until an overwhelming surge of Pope's memories crashes into his mind like a tidal wave, accompanied by a searing headache. Instinctively drawn to Pope's home, he jumps the fence and evades security systems using Pope's access code. Inside, he finds Jill asleep and quickly gags and binds her to the bed before heading to Pope's daughter Emma's room. Memories of a family life he never experienced flood his mind, prompting him to leave Emma undisturbed. Overwhelmed by the influx of memories that threaten to unravel him, Jericho retreats to the bathroom for clarity. There, he catches a glimpse of himself in the mirror, seeing not just Jericho but Bill Pope staring back at him. He urgently asks Jill about the large bag of cash from his memories, but she is completely baffled by his request. In frustration, he begins to pilfer items from the house. Seizing an opportunity, Jill discreetly activates the silent alarm to alert the CIA. Moments later, the phone rings, and it's the CIA on the line, requesting a control code. Surprisingly, Jericho provides them with the code, effectively disabling the alarm, even recognizing the agent's name on the other end. Meanwhile, Jill manages to free herself and rushes to Emma's room, locking them both inside for safety. However, Jericho chooses to leave instead. The scene shifts to Xavier, who is infuriated with the Dutchman for his betrayal and vows to kill him. In response, the Dutchman creates another video, offering to hand over his wormhole technology to a more responsible party, expressing his refusal to collaborate with someone as unstable as Xavier, whom he suspects is plotting against him. Consequently, he reaches out to the Russian SVR with his proposal, planning to showcase his wormhole's capabilities in just a few hours. Meanwhile, Jill reports Jericho's intrusion to the police, and the news quickly reaches Wells, who realizes that Frank's experiment has succeeded and is determined to track Jericho down. Jericho takes the stolen items to a pawn shop and uses the cash to buy coffee at a nearby cafe, where he ends up in a confrontation that results in him punching a guy in the face. Outside, Pope's memories crash into him like a tidal wave, inducing a blinding headache that compels him to act on them. He remembers a library where Pope had hidden a bag of cash and navigates to that specific section, only to find it empty. The CIA detects his login into their systems using Pope's ID, prompting Wells to seize the opportunity to trace his location, soon discovering he is tracking Dr. Franks. Wells contacts Franks to warn him about Jericho's approach, but just then, Jericho arrives, demanding more pills to alleviate the headache caused by the memories. They decide to head to a pharmacy together. Meanwhile, Xavier also locates Franks and hacks into the pharmacy's cameras to keep an eye on them. Inside the pharmacy, Jericho confesses that Pope's memories are altering his personality and making him feel emotions for the first time, something he finds unsettling. Franks explains that these feelings are new and powerful for Jericho, but he expresses a desire to rid himself of them, longing for his old self. Franks insists on conducting further tests before the memories fade within 48 hours. Hearing this, Jericho becomes fixated on finding the bag of cash with plans to spend it all. Unbeknownst to them, the CIA is eavesdropping on their conversation through Frank's cell phone. Once Jericho exits the pharmacy, CIA agents ambush him, handcuffing him and whisking him away in a car. However, Elsa is observing from a distance and begins to follow them. As Jericho is taken toward CIA headquarters, Wells seeks insight from Franks about Jericho's mental state. Franks explains that Jericho is being influenced by Pope's memories and suggests leveraging his desires to locate the Dutchman. Just then, Wells receives an alert about the Dutchman's impending attack and blames Franks for choosing a psychopath for his experiments. With 3 hours remaining until the Dutchman's deadline, Jericho is brought before Wells, who promises him the bag of cash in exchange for information about the Dutchman. Jericho visibly calms at this prospect, but when Wells extends a handshake, Jericho instead seizes him firmly, insisting that Wells must uphold his end of the deal. Drawing on Pope's memories as a guide, Jericho leads Wells and other agents toward the Dutchman's location. In a calculated move, Xavier fabricates a red notice for the Dutchman, manipulating airport surveillance to alert security forces. When Wells receives this information, he abruptly cancels his agreement with Jericho, ordering him to be taken in and dismissing his pleas for the promised cash. As Wells and his team rush to the airport, Jericho is being transported back to the safe house. Upon arrival, however, Wells discovers that they have apprehended the wrong man. Separated from Jericho, Xavier seizes his opportunity. He hacks into a nearby bridges system, forcing Jericho's vehicle to halt and notifying Elsa of the situation. Chaos erupts as a hit squad opens fire on the car, instantly killing one agent. In the ensuing turmoil, Jericho manages to escape, seizing an agent's firearm and returning fire. Realizing he is outnumbered, he commandeers another vehicle and drives over the bridge, plunging into the water below. Though he escapes the sinking car, he injures his leg on the shattered glass. Frustrated yet resolute, Wells is determined to thwart the Russians from obtaining the wormhole technology and devises a plan to surround and surveil their embassy. With only 1 hour remaining before the Dutchman's deadline, Elsa returns to Xavier, who is furious over losing both the Dutchman and Jericho. Meanwhile, Jill and Emma return home, but Jill senses an unsettling atmosphere. Grabbing a concealed pistol, she cautiously descends to the basement, where she unexpectedly encounters Jericho tending to his wounds. Confused by how he knows their names, she learns that Pope's memories have been implanted in his mind, evidenced by the scar he shows her. Despite her skepticism, Jericho begins revealing intimate details that only she and Pope would know, explaining that the CIA is searching for someone tied to his memories. He assures her that he intends to leave their family alone, claiming that even if he wished to harm them, Pope would prevent it. As the Dutchman's deadline approaches, he executes a daring hack into a U.S. military submarine, activating its weapon systems. Despite frantic efforts from the crew, they are powerless to stop a nuclear missile from launching. Just as panic grips the situation, the Dutchman miraculously triggers the missile's self-destruction without detonating its nuclear payload. Back at Pope's home, Jericho notices Emma heading out to the garden and feels compelled to join her. She inquires about her father and his injury, but Jill spots them from the kitchen and rushes to pull Emma away. Although Emma expresses her fondness for Jericho and invites him to stay for dinner, Jill insists he must leave. In a gesture reminiscent of Pope's kindness, Jericho offers to prepare waffles before departing. Later that evening, Emma asks Jericho to join her at the piano. After some gentle persuasion, he agrees and sits beside her as she teaches him a melody. Jill watches from a distance, torn between concern and curiosity. When it's time for bed, Jill questions Jericho's true identity. At this moment, he is still grappling with his own sense of self. He confesses that he has always felt different and mentally unwell, but acknowledges that Pope's memories are transforming him and allowing him to experience emotions for the first time. Seeking further proof of his connection to Pope, Jill asks about their wedding day. As memories flood back to Jericho, overwhelming him with emotion, he reassures Jill that Pope truly loves her. This revelation begins to bridge the gap of doubt between them as they navigate this complex web of memories and identity. As he prepares to leave, Jill extends an invitation for him to rest on her couch, a gesture that stirs memories in Jericho of the countless nights Pope spent there. Meanwhile, Wells receives alarming reports about a missile detonation off the coast of Portugal. The following morning, as the news breaks on television, Jill brings Jericho a cup of coffee. The image on the cup sparks a vivid memory of the university library where Jill works, prompting him to urgently request a car and the library key, reassuring her that she will be safe. After Jericho departs, Jill and Emma are tidying up when Elsa suddenly appears, gun drawn and aimed at Jill's head, demanding to know Jericho's whereabouts. Jericho successfully reaches the university library and accesses the rare book collection, where he discovers a bag of cash cleverly concealed behind some books. Just as he is about to leave, he encounters Xavier, who sits casually in the shadows, triggering a flood of recognition from Pope's memories. Fueled by a desire for revenge, Jericho vows to settle the score, but before he can act, Elsa electrocutes him, rendering him unconscious. Meanwhile, Wells learns that an FSB team has arrived in the city, suspected to be a retrieval unit after the Dutchman. He boards a helicopter with a CIA team, intent on intercepting them. Jericho is led to a car where Xavier's men have already taken Jill and Emma hostage. Xavier demands to be taken to the Dutchman, and Jericho reluctantly points him in the right direction. As Wells tracks the FSB team traveling in a moving truck, he instructs his men to maintain their distance, knowing that following them could lead him to the Dutchman. The FSB team soon arrives at Jill's workplace just as the CIA team positions themselves for action. When they spot Xavier and Jericho together, Wells orders his men to neutralize the Russians and capture Jericho. A fierce gun battle erupts in the street as the CIA confronts the FSB team. In a moment of desperation, Xavier threatens Jill and Emma's lives, but Jericho assures him that the CIA does not possess the Dutchman. This revelation prompts Xavier to command Elsa to locate the Dutchman while he makes his escape. All this time, the Dutchman watches the unfolding chaos from a nearby window. As Elsa and another man pursue Jericho, he cleverly leads them into a laboratory instead of toward the Dutchman. Seizing an opportunity while Elsa is distracted, Jericho throws chemicals at their feet, igniting a massive explosion that allows him to flee. He then finds the Dutchman hiding in Jill's office and fulfills his promise made to Pope by handing over the cash. However, just as he demands the setup of the wormhole, Elsa, having recovered from the blast, bursts in and shoots Jericho before seizing the wormhole technology and killing the Dutchman. Jericho, fueled by desperation and determination, recovers from Elsa's attack and strikes back, using a potted plant to knock her unconscious before brutally overpowering her. Seizing the opportunity, he takes the wormhole technology and escapes in a parked ambulance. Meanwhile, Wells and his team arrive at Jill's office only to discover the lifeless bodies of Elsa and the Dutchman. Upon learning about the stolen ambulance, Wells realizes that Jericho now possesses the wormhole. In a tense moment, Jericho calls Xavier using Elsa's phone, informing him of her demise. He offers to negotiate, revealing that he holds the wormhole, but Xavier, believing he has the upper hand, threatens the lives of Jill and Emma unless Jericho presents himself with the program. As the stakes rise, Jericho hears Wells's voice over the radio from a helicopter above, warning him against handing over the wormhole. Torn between his mission and the safety of Jill and Emma, Jericho struggles to recall their names as the memory implant begins to fade. Frank suggests they could make the implant permanent, but Jericho resolutely refuses to abandon Jill and Emma, pressing forward despite the risks. A high-speed chase ensues as police cars pursue the ambulance. In a desperate maneuver, Jericho forces a trailer to crash, blocking the roadway and buying himself some time. As he approaches Xavier's location, he grabs a hatchet and crashes into one of Xavier's vehicles, killing a man in the process. He leaps from the ambulance, hatchet in hand, attacking the van that holds Jill, ruthlessly dispatching one guard and shooting another. After eliminating Xavier's final henchman, Jericho confronts Xavier, who has Emma at gunpoint. Under pressure, Jericho tosses the flash drive to Xavier, allowing Emma to escape. However, Xavier retaliates by shooting Jericho multiple times, leaving him gravely wounded before fleeing aboard his private jet just as Wells arrives in pursuit. On board the jet, Xavier uses the wormhole to launch a missile aimed at the runway. Wells, realizing the imminent threat, chastises a dying Jericho for jeopardizing their lives. But Jericho reveals a crucial twist: he had previously instructed the Dutchman to manipulate the wormhole so that Xavier's missile would strike its own launch coordinates. In a dramatic turn of fate, the missile veers midair and collides with Xavier's plane, resulting in his demise. As Jericho lies injured, Pope's memories begin to slip away. Weeks later, he survives but has lost all recollection of his past. Wells and Franks bring Jill and Emma in hopes of rekindling some fragment of Pope's memories. When Emma embraces him, Jericho instinctively performs Pope's sign of love, prompting them to advocate for his survival and reassign him as a CIA field agent. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.